I'll be taking 2 classes from today. I'll probably take only 1 hour in the evening because my pain continues undiminished. In fact, today there is a felicitation for our newly minted Vice Chancellor, and this felicitation is supposed to be from 9 to 11, and I told him that I gave him a call yesterday and told him I'm kind of behind. 1 second, please. Yeah. Oh, okay. Desk lot, yes, doctor. Yes, yeah. 5 mg. Okay, doctor. No, no, I'm not applying anything. So, okay, okay, doctor. Doctor, the house is ready to move. So you can start moving now if you want. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, the key is with me, and I'll be at home. Both Maya and I are at home because we are having online classes. So one of us will be there to give the key. So that's not a big problem. Yeah, yeah, sure, doctor. Sure. My pleasure. It's now up to you. I got it all totally cleaned up and all that. Everything is working, doctor. Everything. My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you, doctor. Sorry about that. That was my doctor. I actually sent a picture of an allergy that I have developed. So he kind of called me to tell me what medicine to take, which is very kind of him. And he's moving into my ground floor house. Not ground floor, first floor. Anyway, so what I was trying to tell you is that please tell everyone that the political ideology classes will be held only in the evening. That is the most important thing that I want you to do. Okay, they'll be held in the evening. Uh, Actually, that first unit is a huge ocean. We've been through half of it. There is another half to go through. Uh, but we'll go through. Unfortunately, again, it might involve excursions, which Madam Padma is not a big fan of, because there are a lot of things in that, uh, especially when we're doing, say, Taylor's sources of the self. We'll be talking about a number of philosophers. including John Locke, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Hegel, Kant, and all these people. So, because it is all a part of that. So, I'm afraid I really don't know how long these things will take, but the classes will be in the evening. And the other thing I must confess is that if you're looking at, sorry, if you're looking at this whole idea of feminism, now, if I were to teach you what Simone de Beauvoir meant by the second sex, uh, or what Kate Millett meant by the sexual revolution and the counter revolution, and if I have to talk to you about Nancy Fraser and her synthesizing, uh, modernity with political thought, I either explain it to you in one sentence, or I have to go, deep into it, and because they are targeting particular male authors. The favorite target of all these people is Lawrence, D.H. Lawrence, not T.E. Lawrence. T.E. Lawrence is also called the Lawrence of Arabia. Um, and then they are targeting some of the members of the church for patriarchy and all those things. So, drawing a balance is something which is extremely difficult, given the fact that you either, go and just say this is what is the gist of their philosophy, which will probably take 10 minutes. Or if you go deep into it, then it will probably take 10 days. So, how does one draw this golden mean between 10 minutes and 10 days? Okay, that is the problem. That is absolutely the problem. How does one draw the golden mean? And uh, so we'll see what we can do. What follows in the form of ecologism and all those kind of things are okay, but Orientalism again is there are so many targets that Edward said has in his Orientalism, uh, and do we address ourselves to each of these targets? Because my problem in life is I don't like to do, you know, what is called in Hyderabad thuk polish, which is just make it appear nice and give, but inside it's all nonsense. I can't bring myself to do that. And my biggest drawback is that I've read all these, and then there's this Dorkin guy. I last night I found some time to sit and think about how to teach Dorkin, uh, and I felt like crying. I really felt like crying because this is legal philosophy. he's dealing with issues in legalities. He's dealing with estoppel laws. He's dealing with what he calls uh, the mistakes made by positivism and how those were uh, replicated by uh, what I forget the man's name. It's some ML. Is it MLA or MLS? I can't remember. Hart, HART. And I was just thinking about his differentiation between rules and laws. And if you enter into that, then you are uh, in a huge sea. I used to teach this course on legal theories, and there were only three thinkers. One of them, for the whole semester, there were three thinkers. Okay, and one of them was Dworkin, and Dworkin, I needed something like 1.5 months to do Dworkin. That is how bad it is. And that too, I was not satisfied with what I taught in those 1.5 months. I used to teach these LLB students. I was recruited to teach them because they didn't have anybody who could teach political theory, legal theory. So somebody asked me, do you know legal theory? And I said, as a matter of fact, I do. And so I was drafted, and it was a nightmare doing only three thinkers. Still, it was a nightmare because the whole thing is so full of jargon. Explaining the jargon itself is a problem. I don't know what I'll do. Let's see. We'll get into this when we get to the... Anyway, so both the classes are official, but I'm not going to put the link on this because then they'll question me. Why am I taking a class in the evening? So the link for the evening class will be put in that group only, in the other group, not on your MA first sem group. So you have to go to the AVR Institute thing there. And though I'll show it as an arts college class. Okay, but if I put a link there, now the principal, the vice principal, everybody can see it and they'll say, why are you taking classes in the evening? So that can be misconstrued in several different ways. So I don't want that to happen. Just let's get on with it. I think we stopped at Aquinas, St.
Yes, sir.
Thomas. Yeah. We stopped at St. Thomas Aquinas. But before going to St. Thomas, no, I'll do it after we go to St. Thomas Aquinas. Now, I told you about the Carolingian Renaissance, which I sincerely hope you all remember. It happened in France under the rule of King Charlemagne, and the Carolingian Renaissance, though not as powerful as the Renaissance, which was not as powerful as the uh, Renaissance that happened later, which is actually today considered to be the original Renaissance. But it is, technically speaking, it is a second um, Renaissance, but I'm not going to try and change the way people define these things, because if I change them, then I would possibly be creating confusions for you, and you might end up losing a few marks. But please don't forget this thing called the Carolingian Renaissance. And I hope you've got that. Uh, I don't want to go into the entire Carolingian Renaissance, but it raised very important questions about human rationality. And its main focus was, why should we concern, or rather consider, I'm sorry about that, why should we consider human rationality to be a sin, which is what the Christians were claiming. Okay, why should we consider this to be a sin? We shouldn't be considering it to be a sin. After all, the rational faculty is what differentiates us, is what differentiates us from the uh, is what differentiates us from other animals. And if you look at Saint Augustine, Saint Augustine in his Civitas Dei, the city of God, some people say, please say kingdom of God, whatever, so I'm going to only call it Civitas Dei, did not say anything against human rationality. In fact, you can consider Saint Augustine to be honest and did see rationality as a virtue. Plato at one time was very popular with the Christian thinkers because of the fact that Plato's philosophy, especially the ideal republic, that lent itself to this idea. If you look at the ideal republic, that for St. Augustine would be the Civitas Dei. Okay, he equates Civitas Dei with the ideal republic. You don't have to look for a philosopher king segment. You have God, who's the true monarch of the world. And so it fits in quite nicely into his system, the Platonic thought. Also, what sits comfortably in the system that St. Augustine had created was the fact that Plato doesn't distinguish, not just Plato, nobody at that time distinguished between the public and the private realms of human activity. Everything was public. That is why Plato said, don't listen to music. Plato said, don't read poetry. Plato asked you not to eat certain kinds of foods. So Plato is very prescriptive when it comes to what people in the ideal republic can do. And it is just that St. Augustine picked up this idea of prescription and changed the prescription. That's all he did. Okay, he changed the prescription, and instead of asking people not to do what Plato was asking them not to do, he created his own set of rules, which were all to do with God as the true monarch of the world, and also with the idea that there are certain things that can be done and there are certain things that cannot be done. What is important for us to note as rationality is certainly not in the things that, in the list of things that cannot be done. Okay, it's not there in it. So therefore, this is a later addition. It is added later, and this addition is something that was used to exert the power of the church over people. So, therefore, in the Carolingian Renaissance, you not only have you not only have these uh, people who quoted Augustine, they also quoted other people from the Greek antiquity, as well as a figure like uh, Seneca the Younger, whom many people consider to be a neo Neoplatonist. They consider him to be a Neoplatonist. Okay, so you have Seneca the Younger being quoted from the Roman period. And please remember now it's the Holy Roman Empire. So it's good to quote somebody. Then people were also quoting Cicero and Seneca, not the younger, the original Seneca. And they were talking about jurisprudence and how jurisprudence okay, jurisprudence, please try to understand, is codified systems of law. Codified systems of law. That was what we find in Plato. Now, what you should remember is that this whole exercise against Christianity initially began as an underground exercise. Not against Christianity, against some of the Christian principles. You must understand what is underground. For us today, when we talk about the underground, what exactly do we mean? Okay, we talk about underground as something which is illegal. Those of you who read the newspapers, we know about Dawood Ibrahim, the famous gangster from Mumbai, who's now supposed to be hiding somewhere in Pakistan. And then you have his band of followers, Chota Rajan, Chota Shakil, all these kind of people. So that's one kind of underground. The Shiv Sena, though it's overground, it's actually an underground organization. It's full of thugs and goons. So anything which is underground is usually considered to be that which is, it is considered to be that which is not legal. But there's another meaning of underground. Uh, the other meaning of underground is that which says that people form secret societies, not crypts of the Pythagoras variety, secret societies. meaning people don't know. It looks like they are casually meeting. Okay, they are casually meeting, but they have an agenda. They have an agenda which is about what is right and wrong and how the rulers are ruling. So that was one meaning of underground. Now, if you look at music, okay, there in the 1960s, there was this whole tradition, especially in England, called the underground music tradition. What was the underground music tradition? The underground music tradition was nothing but rebellion. Okay, it was rebellion against society, and it was expressed in various different ways. And bands like Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, King Crimson, all of them started off as underground. They used to play to audiences for hours together. Okay, people were doped out, they were doing drugs, they were drinking alcohol, guzzling it. So this music was not considered mainstream. The music was not ever considered mainstream. It was considered to be underground, meant for those people uh, who are, you know, um basically indulging in drugs and the likes. Well, a lot of these bands actually came overground and have become seminal rock bands, especially Pink Floyd is now a revered band, as is Led Zeppelin. But their origins were underground. Uh, Now I can go into reasons why or how they came overground, but this is not a class in music, so I'm not going to tell you that. So when we are talking about underground here, we are talking about underground in the second sense of the term, which is forming secret societies and discussing affairs. Now, because of these societies, this happen. See, you may meet underground, but you'll go and talk about that to somebody in your family. So what happened is some of these meetings and their agendas were transmitted to general populations as well. And the general populations were able to see what the underground societies were talking about, the truth behind what they were saying. So that led to a simmering discontent, but people wouldn't come out into the open and talk about it openly because of the fear of punishment. I keep talking to you about Foucault, Michel Foucault. Please read his Discipline and Punish. You don't have to read the whole book. You should read the first and the 8th chapter, I think. Not the first, the second. The second chapter is about what he calls the spectacle of the scaffold, how the Christians terrorized people into compliance. And then there was I would ask you to read the last chapter because that is about Bentham and his devising of a system, a structure, sorry, not a system, a structure of a prison which was called the panopticon. We'll talk about the panopticon when we come to Bentham, but I have many times spoken to you about the spectacle of the scaffold. It's a spectacle because it's being done in the open. Even today we have the word scaffold and scaffolding. A scaffolding is tying up of those wooden beams on a building that is being constructed outside. Okay, so when people have to plaster the wall with cement, I'm sorry, or after it has been what should I say? After it has been cemented and cured, uh, then painting it again requires a scaffolding. So a scaffolding was used, a scaffold was used. A scaffold was used mainly in order to this. Just give me a second, please. Hey, stop it. No fighting. No fighting. Sorry, this is not allowed in my wife's class. It is allowed in my class. No, no, it's okay. So, so there was a simmering discontent which was not openly expressed. It was not very openly expressed because of the fact that, sorry, because of the fact that you see, people were afraid of being burnt at stake or being tortured in several different ways. But there were people within the church who started realizing that there was a change in the attitude of the people. Okay, and in the 11th and 12th centuries, I'm not putting, please, of the Common Era, just read that centuries in both places. If I keep typing every word, then it'll be a bit difficult. Uh, there was a shift within Neo-Aristotelianism from Neoplatonism to Neo-Aristotelianism. Why did this happen? This happened because Plato is somebody who created uh, a great republic. In his thing, in his mind, it was a wonderful thing, and like I said, it was way ahead of its time, way ahead of its time, and that basically indicates uh, that the Christians also found it a little difficult, because if you're drawing from Plato, then some of the, except for the fact that the republic is an absolute thing, except for that, you have a problem with the idea of the other things that he had, which is the equality of the sexes, which is, and the Christian church is robustly patriarchal, sorry, it is robustly patriarchal. And when I say it is robustly patriarchal, what I mean by that is that people uh, didn't believe in women. There was this whole argument of the original sin that came from St. Augustine, by the way. Um, the argument of the original sin of Eve. Uh, so it was anti women. And even if you look at the creationism, even if you look at the creationism of the church, what does it say? How was the human being created? God first created Adam. Okay? God first created Adam, and from the rib of Adam, he created Eve. Okay? And the Eve fell prey to the serpent in the Garden of Eden, which is the paradise. She fell prey to the tricks of the serpent and ate the forbidden fruit. And that's why people landed up on earth. So women were not to be trusted. Women had a tendency uh, to basically make fools of themselves. Women also created problems for men. And you look at any of these Abrahamic religions, all of them are very, very robustly patriarchal. They are male dominated. There is no sacred feminine, which, if you put as opposition uh, to what you find in India, it was a sacred feminine that came first. And both Vishnu, because if you look at the two dominant tendencies of the Sanatana Dharma, one is the Vaishnavite tendency. The Vaishnavite tendency actually came with the Aryans, and due to gerrymandering and co-option, you find that Shaivite worship, which people today say preceded the advent of the Aryans, both Shaivites and the Nagas. These people were co-opted through gerrymandering, and so you have this whole idea of both Vishnu and Shankara. Okay, both Vishnu and Shankara as being Ardhanarishwaras. They are Ardhanarishwaras. Vishnu, his form was supposed to be Ardhanarishwara when he took on the form of Mohini. Okay, if you know the story of Mohini Bhasmasura, then you'll know that. Okay, he was half man, half woman. And Shankara, like I told you, is the worshipping of the linga is not just a worshipping of, I mean, people today don't even know what they are worshipping. Seriously. Okay. You are actually, when you are worshipping Shiva or Shankara, you are worshipping the genitals, both male and female. The linga is the main genital and male genital, and the thing that is around, that is the yoni, which is the female genital. So that is why Shiva is Ardhanarishwara, okay, which means he's both man and woman. And the definition of the universe by the Rig Veda is Purusha and Prakriti. Prakriti is woman. Prakriti is the feminine force. And Purusha is the masculine force. So nature is both Prakriti, first Prakriti, then Purusha. So there is both male and female. And like I told you, there are different pantheons of gods and villages everywhere in India have deities that protect people. At the entrance and the exit of the villages, you have these little temples, and these are female. They are simply called Ammavaru in South. In in Telugu, it's Ammavaru. In uh, Tamil, it is Ammal. In Kannada, I think it's just Amma. I don't know what they call in Kerala. But I do know for a fact that Kerala has more women population than men. And that is only state that bucks a trend where you have more men than women everywhere else. Kerala is the only state, maybe one more state in the northeast. I can't remember if that is Manipur or if it is Tripura. It has more females than it has males. So we have all these things, but this is a robustly patriarchal religion, Christianity. And for them, Plato could have been a source of discomfort because of the equality of the sexes, because he did not believe in keeping slaves. So Aristotle found favor. Aristotle found favor because Aristotle also had the concept of the telos. And the telos, whereas in Plato, the republic is the goal that people are setting for themselves. Okay? It is a goal that people are setting for themselves, the republic. In Aristotle, that is not so. Excuse me a second. Okay? The telos is a predetermined goal. And Aristotle used the causal analysis. And since he used the causal analysis, he was stuck with the problem of infinite regress. I'm not going to go into that now and explain it again. Please remember, I told you that in a causal analysis, every cause is a cause of something and it is also an effect of something else. And so, if you want to see how it all started, you have an infinite regress. And unfortunately, we don't know how the world began. And Aristotle, in order to stop the infinite regress and to find the pure cause, the pure cause is the cause that is the cause of all things and not an effect of anything. That pure cause for him is God. So it sits in wonderfully with creationism. God caused the universe is what Aristotle said. He didn't say how, right? And there was no divinity in his principle of God. But this principle that God caused the universe and that there is a telos, which is a predetermined purpose. to be apprehended rationally by human beings. But these two things came in very, very conveniently. They came in very conveniently to the aid of the Christian thinkers. So you find Aristotle is not also giving equality of status to women. He's also saying that they are inferior. It's a patriarchy. So people shifted from Plato to Aristotle. And so you had within the church, you now had the neo-Aristotelianism or the neo-Aristotelian movement. Saint Thomas Aquinas has been called the Christianized because of his extraction of certain principles of Aristotle and extrapolating them as Christian principles. His philosophy is called Thomism. The philosophy of St. Thomas Aquinas is actually called Thomism. Okay, now if you sorry, if you look at what, I'm not going to go into the entirety of St. Thomas Aquinas. What we find in Aquinas is system of laws based in what he called, not based in, sorry, please remember the telos in Aristotle is becoming rational, reaching the highest level of rationality. That is his eudaimonia, the politeia. Okay, so he's invoked those here. So he says he has given us a fourfold system of laws. in order to save space, I'm not going to write law after each of this, but read it as whatever I write. After that, put the suffix law. The first of kind of law that Aquinas talks about is the eternal law. Eternal law is unchanging. That is the thing that you have to remember. And I would want you to pay attention to this, because this evening, when I teach you Charles Taylor, I will be making one point about the sources of the self, where Taylor attacks both uh, Augustine and Aquinas. Okay, so just remember these. You have to. So the first kind of law is the eternal law. The eternal law is something like, though our system of dharma is not law, but it is sanatana dharma. Is dharma in any period of time. In any period of time, dharma is dharma. It doesn't change with time and place. That is why it is sanatana. Sanatana is everlasting. Okay. One gentleman gave me a spurious translation. He said actually Sanatana comes from Sanutana, which is always, that is all everlasting. Sanutana is always new. It's not, so that is not the correct translation. Anyway, let's not go there now. So the first is eternal law, which is not changing. It's a law given by God. It's a law given by God while he created. Again, he is a Christian, so he believes in creationism. So he therefore says that this first kind of law is eternal law, which is based in the wisdom of God, in the wisdom of God, and it's eternal law. Now you might ask a question. Pray tell me, where is this eternal law? Where does it exist? Where can I find it? Not in its written form or anything, but where do I find its operation? If we have laws today, laws of traffic, let us say, if somebody is breaking it, you can see that somebody is breaking a traffic law. You know what a traffic law is. It's codified. But eternal law, where is it? It's not codified. It is not at all codified. So, how do you know what eternal law is? So, friend Aquinas, a very intelligent man, deviously, he says you can find the operation of the eternal law in natural law. You can find it in natural law. Okay, so the question is, how do you find it? How do you find it in natural law? Because he says the natural law is working in nature all the time. There is a natural order, which is what Aristotle talked about. The natural order. Please remember, family, primary natural association, village, secondary natural association. It's all natural. It's a natural order. So human society in Aristotle is only replicating the natural order. That is what Aquinas picks up. And he says it is natural law. It's natural law that basically uh, is evident in the natural order. So, who constituted the natural order? What is the basis of the natural order and the laws of nature? Laws of nature, all these are those which are derived out of eternal law that God has created. So, eternal law manifests itself as natural law. It manifests itself as natural law. So if you want to see what eternal law is, just see natural law. If you look at natural law, then you understand what is eternal law. Because laws of nature don't change, do they? Laws of nature are laws of nature. They don't change. They're not subject to change. In that sense, they are eternal. So, the understanding of eternal law is there in natural law. Then comes the next thing, which is some people call it human, some people call it social. I'm going to call it social law. Since human beings are rational, they are capable of understanding natural law. They are also capable of understanding that the natural law and the natural order which derives itself from those laws is the wisdom of God, and it is to be found in the eternal law. Eternal law. So that is what Aquinas says is the basis of social law, because social law is derived out of natural laws. And if there is harmony in nature, because we are creating the same kind of a system of law, this leads to harmony in society, right? And in order to understand all these, you need rationality. If you're not rational, how will you understand these? So rationality is no longer a sin. It's not faith versus reason anymore. It's not faith versus reason anymore. It is reason, which is a prerequisite to understand the wisdom of God. To understand the wisdom of God. And like Aristotle, he's saying that we don't set goals for ourselves. We don't set goals for ourselves. We follow a virtuous life. I'll come to that point once I finish with this laws. So social laws are derived out of natural laws, which are a manifestation of eternal law, which is the wisdom of God. But Aquinas says, since the wisdom of God is very, very superior, very, very superior to the rationality of the human beings, to the rationality of the human beings, sometimes they might not understand fully what this eternal law is and how the natural order is functioning. And also that may lead to problems in laws of society. They may lead to problems in laws of society because of the inadequacy of the human being's reason and its capability, or rather incapability, to fully understand through derivations. What we're doing is derivations. Through derivations, the wisdom of God. When your rationality lets you down and your derivation process is not sufficient for you to listen, to understand the spirit of the laws that are created by God in through eternal laws, then God takes it upon himself to reveal divine law. Okay? To reveal divine law. So what does that basically mean? We are back to revelation as the basis That is what it means. Why can't you, why couldn't you? Even today, Christians would feel terribly offended if you tell them that your wonderful Bible still says that we have the earth as the center of the universe. You haven't even changed it. They'll be offended because it's considered to be divine revelation. And why can't you go against the Quran? You can't go against the Quran for the simple reason that Quran is the revelation, the final revelation according to Prophet Muhammad. It is the final revelation made to uh, the human beings by God through him, that is Prophet Muhammad. So it's divine knowledge. You don't question it. You question it, you become a kafir. You become a kafir. And you have those, all those, if you go against it, even today in Saudi Arabia, you have all those draconian punishments, uh, like stoning people to death and all those kind of things, right? What does that indicate? That indicates that people still believe in the idea of revelation. Just because there's Darwinianism around, please don't be under the impression that creationism is dead. It is not. It's not dead. A lot of people believe in creationism, even today. So when we say that there is a limit on human rationality and how much we can actually uh, understand uh, the eternal wisdom of God, and that we need a revelation again through some kind of a prophet, that itself is an indication that you're again going back to revelation. Revelation is now reconciled. It's not no longer an enemy of rationality, but it is reconciled with rationality. So that is what Aquinas achieved. Reconciliation. So that is how cunning Aquinas was. Now, because of all these things, you find that people were not happy, people were not stupid, people could see, what exactly was being done by Aquinas. They could see what was being done by Aquinas. And therefore, this festering within people of the Christian faith didn't subside for long. It in fact started growing stronger. Now, so here is another underground movement. what you will find this in books, if at all you find a book uh, talking about this, it will say partisans of the state. And let me remind you again, there was no state at that time. State is a modern institution. So these people were the partisans of the imperium. What did the partisans of the imperium claim? Now, first and foremost, they're just called the partisans of the imperium because they were underground. Nobody knew their identity. Nobody knew the identity of the partisans of the imperium. Okay, because it was an underground movement. But they were spreading these ideas in the, what do we say, in society in different ways. I'm not going to go into all those and tell you the strategies that they used and all that. But what the partisans of the state or the partisans of the imperium succeeded in doing was creating a new controversy. It came to be called the Sacerdotium-Imperium Controversy. What is there in your syllabus is this. Church is all right, but there was no state. And the language used was anyway Latin. While you write your answers in the exam, please write it as church-state controversy. If you use Sacerdotium Imperium, then whoever is correcting your paper will give you a zero saying what are all these things. Please write it as church-state controversy if that question comes in your exam. But after that, chuck it. Forget it. Only remember Sacerdotium Imperium. Sacerdotium, as you can see, Sacerdotium was a sacred realm or realm of God. Imperium was the temporal realm, or the realm of a ruler, such as a prince or king. Why is it called temporal? Temporal is the opposite of eternal. Okay, I mean, that is the basis of the word temporary, which means, something is time bound. You understand what I'm trying to say? Something is time bound. And if something is time bound, then it is called temporal. Now, these people said, why do you need to involve God? This is the partisans of the imperium. Call them partisans of the state if you're writing an answer in the exam. They said, why do we need God in everything? In matters which are temporal, why should you have the Pope and the Church, all of them poking their nose into it? So they said, well, sorry about that, but they wanted the independence of one from the other. The exact expression that they used was Potestates Distinctae, is what they called it. Potestates Distinctae essentially in Latin means different swords. You know what is a scabbard? That which you put your um, sword in. That's called a scabbard. Or even if you are putting a kukri knife, which the Gurkhas have, they put it in a small little scabbard, that leather thing in which they put it. It's called scabbard. Actually, it's called scabbard. So they said these are two different swords and they could not be put in one scabbard. So you needed two different scabbards for these two distinct and different swords. So what did they suggest? They suggested Pope take care of Sacerdotium and King take care of Imperium. Nice, isn't it? Very, very nice. But we have a problem. Pope, they have an elaborate system of how somebody becomes a pope. Okay, you have a hierarchy in the church. The cardinals all get together and decide who's going to be the pope. What is the basis of somebody becoming a king? That is the first question. How does somebody become a king? The answer given by the partisans of the Imperium was the king is a king. I wanted to save some space. The king is one meaning, king is by divine right. And this is a problem, a very, very big problem. Why? Because the church already claimed that they were the representatives of God on earth. They said the church is the representative of God on earth. The Pope is one who rules according to the wishes of God, who is the true monarch of the world, the true monarch of the world, and the Pope rules in accordance with the wishes of the true monarch of the world. And that's why when Christendom reigned supreme, when Christendom reigned supreme, you will find that uh, every other realm, every other realm of activity was subsumed subsumed by religion, the Christian religion in this case. Nothing had an independent identity of its own. No realm. Every other realm, not just the political vanished completely. Okay, the political vanished completely. But what do you see? You see that every other realm of human activity is something that comes under the control of the sacerdotium, because it is the representation of God on earth, who is the true monarch of the world. So the partisans of the state failed. Why? Because the moment they said the king is a king by divine right, then the church said, we are here by divine right. We are here by divine right. So where is the necessity of another authority? There is no need for another authority. And they said, we understand the scriptures, we understand what is virtue, what is good for the people, better than anyone else does. So why do you need these two things? There are no two swords. There is only one sword, the sacerdotium, that takes care of everything. That's why they failed. They failed completely. But they had stirred enough. Is Yasmin taking a class today? I don't think so, right? Because there's a felicitation happening for the Vice Chancellor. Can I finish this bit off if you give me another 5 or 7 minutes?
Yes, sir.
I couldn't hear you, madam.
Yes, sir. Let's continue.
Yeah, because I know Yasmin is not taking today's class. So, and people like me get into trouble by not going to these. I not only did not go, I even called him up and told him I'm not coming. No wonder he hates me. Okay. Uh, so, divine right, sorry, no place for imperium. Now, another reason why the Christian thinkers, no, shall I think I'll just try to leave this here and wipe this out, and let's see what this can do. The neo Aris No part of life was independent of ethics, and ethics became the basis for virtue. Here we are still using ethics and morals as the same, interchangeably. Okay? We are not using them as two different things. Morals and ethics at this stage also are one and the same. But what they changed is the meaning of virtue. And this is a very important thing that you people need to know. Virtue for the Greeks meant excellence. Okay? It meant excellence. What am I typing? If you excelled in something, then you were called virtuous as far as the Greeks were concerned. This is a usage that we still find, but in a very limited fashion, and we find it only in the world of art, only in the world of art, in which I also put music. So if you talk about, say, somebody like Yehudi Menuhin, who gave a concert in the Royal Albert Hall at the age of 6. He played the violin, I'm sure you know that. At the age of 6, he gave a concert in the Royal Albert Hall, and he was called a violin virtuoso. 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 That is what he was called. Today we call L. Subramaniam, the Carnatic musician, we call him a virtuoso of violin because he excels in playing the violin. He excels. So that meaning is still there. Painters are also called virtuosos. Pablo Picasso, his paintings are described as virtuosos works. So you have people in the arts and especially music still being called virtuosos, which derives its meaning from the original Greek meaning of virtue, which was excellence. The other meaning that was there came from Latin word vir. Vir is manliness. Vir is manliness. Funnily enough, even in Sanskrit, vir is manliness. Okay? Vir. I mean, you have the Hindi word vir, right? Though it's written Veer. You have the Telugu word Virudu. The Tamilians call it "we run." I think there was a hockey team called the Chennai Veerans. I used to love watching that one because I idolized my father, who was apparently a very good hockey player, and but I love hockey, so I always look out for channels that are showing. It's a very artistic game. Apart from football, football is another completely artistic game, especially the way the Brazilians play it. But Indian hockey is, I think, the most uh, artistic of all countries is hockey. Okay, so Veer is man, brave, all those things. Even in Sanskrit and Hindi, Telugu, Chennai, uh, Tamil, all these. Okay, so that is manliness, Veer. But the Christians changed this to you were virtuous according to the Christians if you led a life of piety and being devoted. If you did this, then you were considered to be virtuous. They changed the meaning completely. And this meaning continues. This meaning continues till today, but it is not as if it has not undergone changes. Now, this is something that I would want all of you to keep in your mind for tomorrow's class. For tomorrow's class, when I shall start off with Machiavelli. Okay, so if you have to understand Machiavelli, the first thing that you need to understand is the failure of, just let me put it here. What I mean by separating the two is the Imperium and the Sacerdotium. This is what the partisans of the Imperium failed in miserably. So we have Machiavelli, who gives us a completely different theory. And in doing so, he brings back the word politics. He brings it back into the vocabulary of social sciences. Later, they came to be called social sciences later. But in the matter of governance and all that. So Machiavelli is a fascinating figure. But what you need to remember is this virtue thing. You have to remember that a lot of how you understand what Machiavelli has to say depends on your understanding of these three different meanings of virtue and how Machiavelli actually twisted something and did and achieved what the partisans of the imperium could not achieve. Okay, so thank you. I have. Are you still there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I thought I'll use this opportunity to finish this off. Okay, so that we can start with Machiavelli tomorrow. Okay, but before doing Machiavelli, there's a small bit that I need to do about Franciscan friars. They had a very important role to play in the rise of Machiavelli. So I will talk about a couple of Franciscan friars, Marsilius and Marsilius of Padua and William of Ockham. These are the two people I'll very briefly talk about and go on to Machiavelli. Okay, so thank you. Very kind of you to letting me torture you for some more time. See you in the evening. Those are not extra classes. I'm not doing things outside of the syllabus. Those classes are very much a part of your curriculum. Today we shall do Charles Taylor's Sources of the Self. I hope to finish it in one class, because if I go on, then I'll probably take a semester. That is my problem in life. Okay, that is really my problem in life. So you must have heard of problem child, problem. I am a problem teacher. I must be the only one of my kind. Somebody, I think you people should all get together. I'll give you some of the phone numbers and addresses of my old students, and you should institute a, what should I say, institute a title for me. The most painful teacher ever. That is what you should give me as a title. So I'm looking forward to that. Most painful teacher ever. That'll be very unique to me. I don't think that anyone else would want that kind of a title. Okay then. Thank you. Akshay, like
Thank
I
you, sir.
said, give me a couple of days. Once I finish off some things, then I'll let you do your Marcus Aurelius. Maybe after I finish Machiavelli, you can do Marcus Aurelius.
Okay, sir.
Okay? All
Okay.
right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you. Thank you.